So probably the best part of wearing and collecting great watches is the fact that you do not need thousands of dollars to do so. So today we're looking at affordable icons all under $500 that you will actually wear and not just let sit in your bedside drawer. So let's get started. Right, before we start with the first watch, because I have put everything into an internet-friendly numbered list, I'm going to clarify the rules for this video. So today we are covering watches that have a price limit of under $500 new at retail. So I'm not looking at gray market prices. Then we're going to focus on watches with a reputation or history. So we're not including fashion brands. And we'll be mixing categories. So we're not just talking about divers, but we're also going to include dress watches and quirky ones, casual watches, and so on, because I think sometimes this can be very diver heavy, and all of them will be icons in their own respective way that are equally suited for seasoned collectors as well as everyone that is completely new to this. So let's get into it. And first up is a true gateway drug into the world of mechanical watches. Of course, it's the Seiko 5 Sports. And if you've been around the watch scene for, let's say, like 5 minutes, you've probably heard of it. And honestly, there's a reason people keep recommending it, of course. And yes, I know, just saying Seiko 5 Sports is like saying that someone would recommend you a Rolex HS. The configurations and looks are almost endless, it feels like. And there's so many different categories within the Seiko 5 Sports section. So let me pick one very iconic for you, the SRP E53 or 51, depending on the color. And it is great news for those still upset that the Seiko discontinued the SNXS 79K, because the SRPE 51 or 53 is following this one up very nicely. The SRPE is available with a blue or black dial, and it's pretty close to, I would say, being a perfect watch within my opinion. It's a 40mm with a compact 44.6mm lug to lug, so lug wise even more compact than a 36mm Oyster Perpetual, for example. It is a very simple three-hand layout, including a day and a date complication, powered by Seiko's full R36 movement with a power reserve of 41 hours. Can't say nothing bad about that. And a hacking second. So that means when you pull out the crown to set the watch, the second hand stops instead of, just keep on running. So you can very accurately set your watch, and it is also very easy that way. And the crystal is hard legs, and the hands and arm markers are filled with Lumibright, and it retails for $315. I really like this option. And next, I want to highlight a Casio. And I gotta be honest here, I was very torn between two very strong contenders. Of course, we've got the Casio G-Shock 5600 and the equally iconic F91W. Both are equally strong in their own way, and I'm sure this is going to be a little bit more controversial, but I am sticking to the F91W for this. I mean, let me know in the comments down below which one you would pick, if it's the G-Shock or the F91W. Anyways, let's continue with the F91W. So this Casio is a digital wristwatch, first released in 1989, and it has since become one of the most iconic and recognizable watches in the world, I would say. It is known for its simplicity, durability, reliability, and extremely low price. And it's been in production for over 30 years now. It's almost as old I am. I mean, you can go on Amazon right now and buy one immediately for about $20. Rectangular face and clear display are instantly recognizable, and despite it being comparatively inexpensive, it is actually pretty tough and can last for decades with a battery life of about 7+ years, depending on how you use it, of course. The alarm on this uses a piezoelectric buzzer. This is a very high pitch, like beep beep, which is, and I had to Google this myself, created by a super thin ceramic disc that vibrates when voltage is applied, and then you get this very high-pitched sound. So that's how it works, the more you know. Anyways, since it has been around for quite some time, and also thanks to its durability and simplicity, it has been seen on wrists of soldiers, but also children alike, and therefore has been seen in media too. So the F91W has had its fair share of pop culture moments, so to speak. So in short, this Casio, this isn't just a watch. It's a timeless design icon that blends functionality, affordability, and a touch of a quirky character, making it really popular around the world for decades now. And it's one of my favorites, perhaps, out of this list. And I want to stick with quartz for a moment. And I know for some, quartz watches can be a bit of a no-no, and they exclude them from the outset, but I totally understand this attitude if we're talking about like a 15K watch for the quartz movement. That is something I'm not on board with either necessarily. But I think below $500, quartz is one of the main pros as to why watches work so well in this price category and why it is even possible, you know, to price them like that in the first place. So yeah, let's look at the Tissot PRX quartz next. This Tissot PRX quartz is a modern reissue of a watch Tissot first launched in 1978, right at the height of the quartz revolution and the integrated bracelet sports watch trend. The name PRX stands for precise, robust, and X is, you know, the Latin for 10. So it's the 10 atmosphere of water resistance on this watch. It has a slim tonneau-shaped case with 40mm in diameter with an integrated steel bracelet, which reminds you of the luxury sports watches of the 1970s. So think of brands like the AP with the Royal Oak and Patek Philippe with the Nautilus, but of course at a fraction of that price. Though it's not really old, I think that can still be considered iconic already since its release in 2021, I believe, because it really did struck a chord with enthusiasts because it offered a very true, clear, iconic retro design with modern finishing and build quality, making it one of the best value entry points in the integrated bracelet sports watch category. So in short, the PRX quartz is iconic because it revives a genuine piece of Tissot's heritage, delivers this like 70s design and makes the luxury sports watch feel accessible to almost anyone. Plus, you can also look for other diameters, which I'm always a big fan of. Smaller ones to be exact. So if you fancy something less big, they also offer 35mm in diameter, so you can go really fancy with this one too if you like. Right, I think some might rightfully expect an Orient Bambino next when it's time to move away from the quartz watches and back into mechanical watch territory. But I feel like the Orient Bambino, though it is undeniably iconic, don't get me wrong, has been talked about enough at this point. I'm getting kind of over it. So I suggest something perhaps not like ultra iconic, but semi-iconic, or at least a watch that has developed a surprisingly strong following in a shockingly short amount of time that is definitely worth mentioning in this list, the Baltic HMS 002. So this Baltic is a dress style 3-hand automatic watch with a 38mm step designed case. That means it has a mixed surface finishing and a so-called sector style dial, combining this like matte sandy center with a circular brush chapter ring around the indices, so you have that Art Deco vintage flair, which I love that so much, sprinkled in because sector dials have been very popular in the beginning of the 20th century. So we are right there in the Art Deco. And what is also really cool that I want to mention here is the update, or more specifically the upgrade from earlier versions of this, because the latest HMS is using a Miyota 8315, replacing the 821A movement with a longer power reserve of, I think it's now about 60 hours, and a smoother glide of the seconds hand, among other things, which is for smaller runs like this always a huge thing, and I'm really excited for this. So that type of vintage remake has become very popular with the people in the past years, and it's a design, or let's call it an aesthetic, that is something that you usually find in the more higher price tiers than that, because this Baltic retailed for just about $500, and the whole package combined is just a no-brainer. I really love this. Right, next I want to go up to something that is a bit more casual, but in an equal position as the HMS from Baltic, though Citizen is arguably more established than Baltic. So yeah, but I mean more in terms of this next watch is also not as old as you would assume when one is talking about iconic, but they don't have to be, because that watch has quickly established itself amongst many others. It is the Citizen Tsuyosa. So the design of the Tsuyosa, which by the way means strength in Japanese, was inspired by the NH299 series, which was released in the late 1990s, which was one of Citizen's most successful mechanical lines. So you get a Japanese automatic movement, a sapphire crystal, an integrated bracelet, bold dial colors if you choose to go to that route, and the 80s retro sports vibe that so many are lusting after. I mean, this very much feels like an Oyster Perpetual in a way. So the standard size is the 40mm, but they also have smaller options available for you if you, like myself, have smaller wrists, or just, you know, overall prefer a more demure look or like contained, or you know, just not so in your face. Let's put it that way, okay? So Citizen is known for their reliability and in-house capabilities. They manufacture their movements via myota, and the recent update to the line with the Tissot 60 improved the power reserve of the movement to up to, as the name says, 60 hours, which, you know, is still pretty remarkable in that price bracket. So overall, and, you know, by referencing the NH299 line, Citizen really invokes a bit of its own legacy in mechanical watchmaking with this. And it's like you get the best of both worlds with the referencing the iconic look from the old series and the technical improvements of what modern watchmaking has to offer. And next we have a watch that I owned and wear myself too, the Timex Q reissue, as you know, name gives it away, is a reissue of the Q series from 1979, in which Timex has recreated many of the defining features. So it is a 38mm diameter quartz GMT that is extremely close to the original in terms of looks and functionality, which is also why for a price of, I think it was $226, you're buying the vibe and, let's say, not so much specs. I did a review on this watch and my main takeaway was that basically this is a great GMT watch in terms of looks, and you don't really get that many GMTs below $500, you know, in how it wears on a day-to-day basis. But should you, just on a side note, possess hairy arms and all that, you have to be aware that this bracelet, but like pretty much every bracelet that looks like this one, is going to pull your armpit hair out. But yeah, other than that, this is just a great looking GMT. It's a very cool, like it says, the reissue. They kept very close to the original, and it's just an overall great vintage feel that you get with this one. And right, here we have it, 6 watch icons below $500. And before I end this video, I want to stress that this is by no means a finished list. Believe it or not, this could go on for quite some time. There's plenty of more watches below $500 that are iconic and amazing and great. But time is precious, as you know it. And I would love to read about your suggestions for icons below the $500 in the comments down below. Leave your best suggestions for everyone to read down here. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to watch more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and then I will see you in my next one. Bye!